Hey, Greg here for Party Foul, and we're going to talk, this is our...
Scott behind the camera.
Scott behind the camera, sorry, make sure I get credit. And this is kind of like our fourth bootcamp video, and we're going to talk about Warcasters. And a Warcaster is basically like you personified on the table. It's the most important piece in your army in terms of if you lose your Warcaster, you just lose the game. Lose the game to assassination. So you have to be protective of them, and they can also be used to dominate and control zones and stuff like that. And I want to talk about spells briefly, their focus and what they can do with it, and a little bit about their feat. So during the control phase, a Warcaster can allocate focus to Warjacks in their battle group as long as that Warjack is in their control area. And that's in addition to power up. And they can also use their focus during their activation to cast spells, and you can look on their spell card, and the spells have a range and they have a cost, and they'll tell you whether or not that spell is offensive, and if it's offensive you have to make an attack roll and equal or exceed the target's defense. And they can also use that focus to buy attacks, or boost damage rolls. And it's important to note that you can boost spell attacks if they're offensive, or boost spell damage roll as well. And they can also boost their ranged attacks and damage rolls as well. So, and every Warcaster has a super powerful thing that they can do once per game, and it's called a feat. And the feat will be described on the back of their second card, and I can't really cover all of them here, but the ones like I said, it's a one-time ability, and some feats are a pulse, and some of them are an aura, and make sure when you're using that feat that you know what it is. So if it's a pulse, then it's going to go out and it's going to affect those models, right? And it's going to say something like models in such and such's control area gain +3 armor and +3 speed or +3 strength or something like that. That means that those models are immediately affected, and then they can go off and do their thing, and they don't have to necessarily stay in the Warcaster's control area to benefit from that feat. Whereas an aura, it will say something like, while within such and such's control area, models gain +5 armor or something like that. And so that means that the model has to remain in the Warcaster's control area to get the benefit of the feat. And feats also, their duration can be slightly different. So some feats only last a turn, some feats last a round. Make sure you know what that is. And turn being your turn, a round being the turn that you use it, and the turn following. So we're going to go down to the tabletop, and I'm going to show you a quick example of how a caster can use their focus. Okay, so down here we have Major Victoria Haley. Haley? Is that what her name is? Major Victoria Haley. And she's a 8 focus Warcaster. So that means she starts the turn, you replenish your focus up to its maximum, so she replenishes up to 8. And now it's the Signar turn, and what she wants to do is she wants to clear this zone of enemy models and dominate it to win the game. Okay? So at the beginning of the turn, the Stormclad gets a focus from power up. If she wanted to allocate during the control phase, she could do that now. She doesn't need to probably, but she could allocate focus to him up to a maximum of 3, so he can go do extra work. And we'll cover Warjacks in a different video. So after she's done her allocation, you start your activation order. In this case, we want to start with Haley. So there are windows for when you can cast spells. Right now, before she does any movement or anything like that, she can cast a spell. You can cast a spell at the beginning of your movement prior to moving the model, or you can cast a spell after movement when you move the model. You cannot interrupt your movement to cast spells. If you charge a model, you can interrupt the charge attack to cast a spell or to feat. You just can't interrupt an attack in process. So if you roll your attack roll, you can't cast a spell to try to buff the damage or anything like that. Okay, so Haley is going to cast Telekinesis. So she spends 2, that's the cost of Telekinesis. And Telekinesis is a place effect with a range of 8. So she targets the Stormclad, and she telekinesis him, places him completely within 2 inches, just so we can get a little closer to the target. And then she is going to charge Iris behind the wall. So she moves her charge distance directly towards Iris. And then if she wants to, she can boost the charge attack, which she's probably going to want to do, because it's going to be defense 18 behind the wall. So say she hits and kills Iris. She can then buy an additional attack at the cost of 1 focus on Lanissa. She can boost that attack with 1 focus, and then if she hits, she can boost the damage with 1 focus, killing Lanissa, leaving her with 2 focus, which she can camp if the game's not going to be over at this point, or she can use it to cast another spell. So she could try to TK this guy out of the zone, or she could, I don't know, what else costs 200 thing? She could TK herself if she wanted to, that type of thing. Or she can camp it. And if you are hit by an enemy attack, like say this is the following turn and Haley's standing here, and this guy grape shots her or something like that and actually hits, once the damage is determined, like say he spikes damage and he does 5 points to Haley, Warcaster can spend a focus to reduce the damage by 5 points, and that's a limit of once per attack. So she spends it if that was the case, spends it. So now the Stormclad spends 1 focus to charge, charges here, kills him, and Haley is successful and dominates the zone. So that is how a Warcaster uses focus. We're going to do a separate video on spells because there's certain restrictions on those, like you can use them while in melee, unlike ranged. We'll cover that. But right now, this video is all about the Warcaster, what it can do with its focus, when it can cast spells, that sort of thing. So very basic things. If you haven't watched our video on reading the cards, I recommend highly that you go do that. Watch the first one on Warcasters, and there's more information on how to use them there. Good luck.